Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for September 8, 2022, the Biden Administration Fight Against Corruption edition. We begin with that story from the Foreign Policy, as they report that the USAID has now laid out a playbook to check bad actors. Ukraine's anti-corruption reforms since the 2014 revolution offer a model for emerging democracies to slough off legacy of corrupt regimes. Here in the United States, you call that the Trump administration. The new guide on decleptification looks for ways to help assist countries seeking to dismantle governments and political systems dominated by corrupt elites. And it really, once again, speaks to the U.S. leading the worldwide fight against bribery and corruption. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Richard Vandefort reporting that the Department of Treasury says financial services firms can help to curb Russia's oil revenue. It is another sign that this administration is using all available resources, including the private sector, to help starve Moscow of funding for its Ukraine war. The U.S. wants to build a coalition that includes service providers aimed at lowering the price at which Russia sells oil on the world market to avoid oil price spikes. In the deal book, New York Times deal book, it reports that the judge in Delaware has granted Elon Musk's request to amend his complaint to add the allegations set forth by the whistleblower Peter Zato, known as Mudge, who's the former Twitter security chief. But she skewered Musk's lawyers, who claimed that Twitter either hid or would have hidden that from them by reminding them not only did they have no contractual right to engage in due diligence, but they didn't engage in any due diligence. So hard to say. There was text released which Elon Musk, not Mudge, told his Morgan Stanley banker to slow down the deal less than 2 weeks after it was announced. Obviously, this could put him in breach of contract, and she did not allow a continuance that Musk wanted. So it looks like we're going to trial next month. Our final story comes to us from Reuters, that the contracting firm Booz Allen has agreed to a $5 million antitrust settlement for no poaching. So for those of you who have poaching agreements in your contracts, no matter how small you are, you really need to take a look at that and get legal advice before you try to enforce it. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.